very experienced players there, Kane Williamson and Virat Kohli. I think will be the backbone of each respective team's batting. Rohit's going to try and get a flyer. It's an easy statement to make that it is an advantage for India to play all their round robin games there, and then the semi-final and the final. India have probably got the edge, but I know that on any given day, this New Zealand team can beat anybody apart from Australia. Who
do you think could be the main game changes for India if they have to topple New Zealand in the
For
final?
India, there's no more X factor than Hardik Pandya. He'll be expected to bowl a few overs.
You are listening to the Cricket Rewind podcast. Beyond the scorecards, beyond the boundaries. From exclusive contents to fresh insights, join us in the sport that we celebrate and breathe. More than 2 weeks have passed since the 2025 Champions Trophy kicked off, and now we are on the brink of witnessing the finals. It's the India versus New Zealand, the final clash. Who are going to don the white jackets and lift the coveted trophy? Well, for now, we have a seasoned expert alongside me, joining us to dissect the brewing battle ahead. He's worked closely with the likes of Rohit Sharma, Hardik Pandya, and many others. Was a fielding coach of Mumbai Indians for almost 6 to 7 years. Was the fielding coach of New Zealand cricket team. Knows inside out about this particular team, and also the head coach of Northern Districts earlier on. Joining me, it's a delight. It's an honor to welcome James Pamment.
Thank you very much. Yeah, wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here, and going to enjoy the discussions with you as we build up to what should be an exciting game. At the end of what's been a very good tournament.
Yeah, definitely, Jimmy. I think it's going. It has been a very good tournament as well. Like a short span, 2 weeks of time, but we have seen some. Like maybe the quality of matches could have been better. But again, Champions Trophy coming up after 8 years interval. Always good to be there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and obviously, usually it's every 2 years with the World Cup in between. So it is nice to be back to the Champions Trophy. It gives, I guess, those bilateral series some meaning, which if you get yourself into the top 8, then you get to attend the Champions Trophy. So I think it's been a very good tournament because it shows which teams have really taken it seriously and which teams have really wanted to win it. And I think the best two teams have pushed themselves towards the competition final.
Yeah, so Jimmy, you've been a coach of both the sides, for example, not exactly both the sides, but yeah, you've coached a few players from the Indian team as well. Rohit Sharma, Hardik Pandya, obviously Jasprit Bumrah is not a part, and you've meet them in ground also, like when they collide with other teams as well in the IPL. You've seen how they play, and on contrary, you've also known the New Zealand side very well, like being being in the grassroots level of New Zealand domestic side. So like what is the feeling for you, for example, you're you've worked with both the sides. You must be obviously rooting for New Zealand cricket, but also is there a feeling like, yeah, Rohit Sharma deserves a trophy as well? Before, who knows, he might retire, who knows?
Well, that's right. I mean, obviously you can allow emotional sentiment to I guess cloud your judgment, or I mean, for me, I want New Zealand to win, so it's nice if those guys perform and do themselves and their families proud. But ultimately, yeah, I'd love to be celebrating a New Zealand win early in the hours on Monday morning here at home. So there's definitely some close affinities to some of the players within the New Zealand team because I've known them since they were very young. So it'd be nice for those guys to have another ICC title under their belts. Obviously, they won the World Test Championship back in 2021. So, yeah,
Yes.
it's going to be a nice occasion. But I always want to see those guys do really well. Obviously, your Rohits and your Hardiks, and yeah, I want them to do well, but I want them to lose this game.
Yeah, I think the color of your t-shirt speaks a lot as well. You're wearing the black caps. I mean, not the jersey, but the color resembles.
Yeah, it is, mate. It is a dark t-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'd like to cut the chase to a very like a growing debate that is going on currently regarding the Champions Trophy, and that is Dubai, like the venue, Dubai International Cricket Stadium. India are playing all the games over there, and various people, even recently David Miller has had this view on it. So, what are your views? I would really love to know. Like, India is that one team that's playing all the games in Dubai. Is there an added advantage to that, or do you see like, because it's not a it's a neutral venue for all as well, but
Yeah.
again for India, I think they've been training there again and again, and no other venues. So, what are your views on it?
I think it's an easy statement to make that it is an advantage for India to play all their round robin games there, and then the semi final and the final. But I think there's probably two advantages. But one, I think professional cricketers these days can sort of get used to that, and that's the travel factor. You know, the fact that India have been based in one centre is an advantage. It's always an advantage if you don't have to travel, train, play. But that's, I guess, the other side. What I was just saying there is that teams are very used to travel, train, play scenarios now. So I don't think that's much of an advantage, to be fair. I think for me, the only clear advantage will be that the stadium hopefully will be full of fans, and I would imagine that perhaps 85% of those fans are Indian fans. So that's just a geographical thing, and that surely should be an advantage. But in terms of the venue, the pitch, the ground, I don't think that'll be an advantage unless they really make it an advantage, because it'll be a different surface. I think India have
Yeah,
proved over the last two games that they've played there that they set a total and they defended it, and then they chased in their last game against Australia. So it's not
yeah,
like the toss should be a massive advantage either. I think whichever team plays good cricket on the day will be the worthy winner. So there is some advantages in being based in one place. But like I say, cricketers these days are used to travel, train, play. So the New Zealand boys would have got over to Dubai relatively quickly after their semi-final and will have acclimatised, and they probably enjoy that environment, perhaps with respect a little bit more than Pakistan, because they'll have a little bit more freedom to get out and about and and do
yeah.
what they normally do when they're back home in New Zealand and go to restaurants and things like that, rather than being stuck in the hotel. So yeah, I don't see it like many have as too much of a clear advantage.
Yeah, that's really nicely summed up, and that's a good perspective that you brought out, Jimmy. And like moving on now, I'd like to go a little bit deeper into the New Zealand cricket team. Like they've played some really good cricket without some premium fast bowlers missing. Tim South is retired. Trent Bolt, he was not available. Lockie Ferguson got injured. Someone like Willow Rook really stepped up, except the last game maybe where it was the track wasn't really suited for the bowlers. But do you think the bowlers are going to enjoy bowling in Dubai rather than in Lahore, like where they have played most of the games, especially New Zealand?
Yeah, I think they will, because of perhaps the nature of the surfaces in Dubai. They're well used. Obviously, there was a tournament that went on for 6 weeks just prior to this tournament
Yeah,
starting, so there will be some variation in pace. There will be some variation in bounce, and the nature, especially of the New Zealand bowlers. If there's anything in the surface, Matthew Henry will find it. He's been the premium, I guess, seam bowler for
yeah,
New Zealand now in white ball cricket, especially ODI cricket, for a number of years now, and he's at the top of his
yeah,
game. So he will create great pressure at the top. And the other two guys, they've both got height and they've both got bounce as an attribute of theirs. So if they're on form, it's been a great comeback for Kyle Jamieson, because he's been out obviously with injury, and he's quite quickly
yeah,
pushed himself through the domestic cricket process that he had in front of him, and he's back here on the international stage and doing really well. And somebody like Willow Rock's been outstanding for New Zealand now for
outstanding.
18 months now. So you would hope that the opportunity to play in a final very early in his career will be something that he embraces, enjoys, and can put his best foot forward. So yeah, I've been really pleased with how those three guys have bowled. They've got some very good backups as well if they did think that they might make some changes. But Nathan Smith and Jacob
And Nathan
Duffy,
Smith and Jacob Duffy.
yeah,
Yeah,
equally would be ready to go and chomping at the bit to get an opportunity. And both those guys have done well in international cricket in recent times as well. So there's a nice stock of pace bowlers, which, like you say, have come and replaced two generation first fast bowlers with Tim Southey and Trent Bolt, their records have been impeccable over 10, 15 years now.
Brilliant.
They've moved on, but these guys are stepping up. It's a shame that Lockie's not there because, Lockie probably would have been the leader along with Matt Henry of this attack, and he's very experienced in those conditions, having played IPLs there and obviously having played in the recent competition that was held in Dubai. So he's a big loss, but I think between them, they've covered that loss and they've performed outstandingly well. So I'm sure they'll be excited that they'll have a job to do. Maybe it's not a significant job because spin might play a part, but I'm sure when they're asked to come and perform their roles, they'll do it to the best of their ability with plenty of enthusiasm.
Yeah, and talk about spin. I think you rightly mentioned about how spin can be a very important part in the game. I think Mitchell Santner and Michael Bracewell are the two important aspects, the two important assets of New Zealand that they have really done well. You talk about Michael Bracewell, who was superb against Bangladesh. Like right after the late end of the power play, he came in bold in some overs of the power play, and then into the second power play, just laid the foundation of a New Zealand victory with the ball. Talk about Mitch Santner. He's the captain now. He led from the front in the semi-final against South Africa. South Africa, they were so well in the game when Temba Bavuma was batting with Rassie van der Dusen. But then comes Mitch Santner and his variations through the air, like variation in pace and the way he creates pressure with Santner. How important will that be for New Zealand in this big game?
Yeah, it'll be very important. He's I guess reaching the peak of his powers. I think for most spin bowlers, it is something of a 10-year apprenticeship, and occasionally you do get spin bowlers who mature a little bit earlier in life. But
Yeah.
the fact that in New Zealand we don't play nowhere near as much cricket as what they do, say, in India, in domestic cricket or international
Truly.
cricket. So it takes a little bit of time to, I guess, master your craft. And I feel, for the last 2 or 3 years, Mitchell's been somebody who's really in control of what he wants to do in terms of his variations, in terms of his speeds, and his assessment of the conditions that he's bowling in is outstanding. So he's a tall guy. He uses his height to great advantage, and he gets bounce. And he bowled extremely well against India in the Test matches before Christmas. And
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be very confident that he can put on a good performance on Sunday evening and create the pressure that will be required. Because if we just flip back to last Sunday when they played each other in the last round robin game, I think New Zealand bowled 25 overs of spin, India bowled 38 overs of spin. So the specialist spinners within the New Zealand team, I'm sure, will be expected to be bowling 10, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more. So can we rely on Glenn Phillips to bowl a little bit more? Can we rely on Rachin Ravindra to bowl a little bit more as well, just to try and create that pressure if spin is playing a part? So it'll be really interesting to watch how Mitchell manages his bowlers and when he brings himself in and how he operates, I guess, in terms of a wicket taking attacking option rather than somebody who might come in and just bowl a few overs, not too many runs, but not take wickets. So he's going to make sure that he utilises himself as an attacking option and not a defensive one. But the game will unfold and he'll be smart enough, and the people around him will be assisting him as well with making those right decisions to when to come in and when not to. Yeah, be fascinating.
Yeah, and talk about the last meeting of India versus New Zealand in a Champions Trophy final. That is way back in 2000, where New Zealand there was brilliant. I think India also played good cricket. Saurav Ganguly, the captain, got a century. Sachin Tendulkar got a good start, but it was Chris Gaines, the man of the match, and like what a great knock, 100. And do you think also in recent times in the WTC final, New Zealand have overpowered India? It's like New Zealand is that one side who has. Pipped India in the knockout stages in recent occasions, bearing the 2023 World Cup semi-final. But if you look at the recent past, I think it's been New Zealand who has had the upper hand. So do you think that New Zealand will be oozing out of confidence coming into this match, playing a final, and they would be happy, in fact, that they're playing India, not Australia, in the final?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because like you just identified there in ICC events, we've probably had more success against India in recent times and historically than we have against Australia. You know, it's almost that big brother thing when you play against Australia, and we've had a few we've had a few opportunities where we've had a chance to beat them, and it's almost like they keep pulling the rug out from underneath our feet. Whereas, you know, we have I guess done the same thing to India at times when, you know, it hasn't really been expected. But, you know, I think we're playing good cricket at the moment. Both teams are playing good cricket. I'm not sure if one or the other will be claiming underdog status, but seems to be a popular thing to do. But I think the boys should just embrace the way they've been playing and go out and line up against the opposition, you know, and outplay them on the day. So it's not doesn't come around very often when you get to a final. The stars need to align a little bit to have some success in those finals. So, you know, but you have to do the basics extremely well over long periods. You have to absorb pressure. You have to be able to apply pressure when you get a chance. And this team have done that extremely well in this tournament and on this tour as well, which is great to see, because the two previous tours we've been a little bit ropey. You know, we haven't reach the heights that we have in previous tournaments leading into that. So it's nice to see this group of young men, you know, getting back to, I guess, some performances that, you know, their talent suggests that should be.
Yeah, talk about applying pressure that you mentioned, and I think one such asset or one such dimension where New Zealand have exerted a lot of pressure is with their fielding. Talk about someone like Glenn Phillips. Talk about someone like Kane Williamson. They have been taking some brilliant catches. Like Phillips has known that recognition of a Superman Phillips or a Flying Phillips. They are starting to call him, and I feel that it's not just about Glenn Phillips, because I saw Will Young diving straight away in front to take catches, like the attempt that they're making, and while they're diving, they're making sure that the ball doesn't go past them and it stays there. It's either a single or a catch or a double, maybe. So tell me something. You've been a fielding coach yourself, and you must be knowing a little or two about what goes around the New Zealand fielding circuit. Like, they are simply brilliant.
I think the thing that really epitomised that the fielding was back where it should be in terms of the New Zealand philosophy and ethos was in the last over of the game against South Africa. I don't know if you were watching closely, but I think South Africa needed maybe 30 or 40 to win. There was 3 or 4 balls to go. Kane Williamson chased the ball to the boundary that David Miller hit.
I did see it.
And he dived and pushed it back
Yeah.
and saved 2 runs. Now, the game was over. New Zealand couldn't lose. There's no way that New Zealand could lose from that position. But I guess that was a little bit of an insight into the mentality of this group, and I guess the promises that they've made to each other that, you know, we want the fielding bar to be raised nice and high. And that's something that New Zealand cricket has always prided itself on, especially since around 2013, 2014, when Brendan McCallum took over as captaincy, and there was a real, I guess, emphasis put on the collective team effort around fielding and the commitment to doing the basics really well. So it fell away in recent tournaments, and that's what I say. We were very poor in the World Cup in India. We were very poor last year at the 2020 World Cup in the US and the Caribbean. So it's nice to see that it's back. You know, obviously somebody who's passionate about fielding, and the organisation of the group is a lot better now than what it was last couple of years. We're getting the right people in the right areas, and they're just putting their bodies on their line and really putting everything out there, and that's all you can ask for. And if they're doing the basics really well, obviously chances are being taken at a high percentage, which is great, but they're also extending themselves and putting themselves in positions where they're turning quarter, half chances into full chances, and and that's all down to mentality, and it's all down to commitment. And yeah, it's wonderful to see, because sometimes if the opposition have got better batsmen, they've got better bowlers, you have to find ways of getting an advantage somewhere on the cricket field. And if you can show that, you're going to outfield them with attitude and with commitment and togetherness, then, it goes a long, long way, and it does create pressure within itself. So, yeah, I'm really excited with where this group have put themselves together and been fielding throughout this tour.
Yeah, exciting feeling. And one of the best incident suicides that Mohammad Rizwan catch and the Virat Kohli catch that Glenn Phillips took.
Yeah,
And as mentioned, like not about Phillips, the whole group has been surreal with the field. But now, if we quickly switch our attention to the Indian side for a moment, big match, obviously, a big place playing Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli. There's a Hardik Pandya who has been a clutch for them in the final stages, as well as Akshay Patel. So, if like from your point of view, who do you think could be the main game changes for India if they have to topple New Zealand in the final game?
yeah, there is so many. There is obviously some established world-class cricketers within that group with outstanding records, and obviously Virat's found some form, and the
Yeah,
ODI format has been a format that he's owned for a long number of years. So Glenn Phillips produced a moment of brilliance to get rid of him in the last game. So they'll be looking to equally create some brilliance to get rid of him, to put some pressure on him. I guess one of the most underrated, well, he's underrated because he's now consistently getting picked in most formats, is Axar Patel. I think he's a top cricketer. I think his skill set is extremely high. He's got the ability to bat anywhere and do what the team requires of him. So I think he's become a very important player for India. So he'll be somebody that I hope has a quiet night. But the rest speak for themselves. It's not about finding somebody who you can isolate. Their game plan is very clear. Obviously Rohit has been extremely aggressive up the top. So, the
yeah,
guys are going to have to be very disciplined, keep the ball nice and straight. Don't give him any step hits. If he looks to move his feet, make sure they're on the ball. But Matt Henry will be confident that he can ball some nice deliveries at him and try and get rid of him early. But yeah, there's just so many players that can be game changers, can be match winners. So it'll just be about what the conditions present, how the
yeah.
game unfolds, and the situation of the game, and can New Zealand stay patient? Can they stay strong? Can they stay demanding? And can they keep asking tough questions, whether they're in the field first or whether they're defending? It'll be like a game of chess, and they're going to have to play it very smartly and identify when is the moment to attack and when is the moment just to keep applying pressure steadily. So, yeah, like I say, there's so many guys who can change the game very quickly, and they have done historically within that Indian team. But they've also showed as well in big games that they have vulnerabilities like everybody does, and I'm sure the New Zealand
Definitely.
staff and the players will be planning very carefully to identify the weaknesses that they feel they have, and then go and try and expose them.
Yeah, so you've worked closely with Rohit Sharma as well, like for the Mumbai Indians, and you were a part of the side that won the trophy several times, won the IPL title. So, like obviously, like this is the fourth time that Rohit Sharma is captaining India in an ICC tournament, and there's the fourth final as well. Like it's four all finals when it comes to playing the finals for India in ICC events. So, what does like you have seen him from a close perspective, so
Yeah.
from a close view, so what do you think, what makes Rohit Sharma different as a leader when it compared to the other cricketing, like obviously there are cricketing greats as well, but Rohit Sharma, like the stats speak for himself, there must be something different about him, isn't it?
I'm not sure if you compare people, the different styles
Hmm.
of leadership. I think there's two things that stand out to me. I've been observed very closely Rohit's leadership style. He's very even. Emotionally, he's very well balanced. So, whether he has a big win or he has a disappointing loss, he tends to not, be too rash when you've lost, and he doesn't be too jubilant when you win. So he's a very even character. He tends to be very supportive of younger players as well. I know younger players take great comfort from the way he manages them. Not that there's too many real young guys in that Indian team, but certainly in an IPL environment, you do have a lot of young players, and I know that the younger players have really valued his mentorship and the way he handles them. But for me, his greatest attribute as a captain is the way he reads batsmen. in the opposition team. It's almost like at times he's one step ahead. He knows what they're trying to do. So in terms of how he communicates with his bowlers and how he manipulates the field on his gut instinct, which is obviously reasonably high because he's an outstanding batsman himself. But to me, that's his greatest on-field attribute, is his insight into what batsmen are about to try and do and put the pressure on. So, yeah, he's got some nice instinct about him and quite a strong anticipation around what he feels is going to happen next. And and I've seen it in big games in IPL that quite often he's correct with what he tries to do.
So could you put in any example, like any such example that you remember that Rohit Sharma was ahead of the opposition in any IPL game or some other games?
There's a great game actually in 2019 when we won the IPL in
Yeah,
Hyderabad, where when Malinga came and bowled round the wicket and bowled a slower delivery. I think it was Shardul Thakur who was on strike, and
yeah.
Rohit must have said to Malinga, I said, you can bowl over or you can bowl round, it's up to you, but you must bowl a slower ball because he won't hit it. And Malinga bowled a slower
There you
ball
go.
straight at the stumps, and he missed it. Yeah, and we won a game that we
Yes.
should never have won. But things like that, just little insights. You see little manipulations of the field. You see little
Yeah.
chats with bowlers, and it is all based around what he thinks, and generally he's right most of the time what the batsman is about to try and do, because he reads the game, he understands the game, he's played so many games, he's highly cricket
Yeah.
intelligent, and he's a world-class batsman himself, so he probably puts himself into the batsman's shoes, and so he's very good at that.
Yeah, very good at that. And right there, we can see is that and that was a lovely incident that you shared, Jimmy, about the Shardul Thakur thing. It's definitely a memorable incident from the IPL as well. And now, if we just look into India's bowling lineup for the time being, I think Varun Chakaravarthy has been that one revolution in the Indian bowling attack. And who better than New Zealand? Like they did see the New Zealand side. Was did see fell prey to Varun Chakravarty's lethal bowling in the last game in the group stages. So, do you see New Zealand trying to do something different, or will they stick to their own plans, or especially against Varun Chakravarty? Because during the second power play, he's going to come and attack the bowlers, and he's got his made slight changes as well in his bowling, with his googly resembling very much like his other deliveries. Not too very sure about the exact which delivery. But what are your views if New Zealand have any plan? Should they have any plan against Varun Chakravarty?
Yeah, absolutely. And they would have had some plans leading into the final group stage game that was played last Sunday. And they would have learnt a little bit because, he picked up 5 wickets. So 5 of them were
Yeah.
dismissed by him. They would have analysed those decisions. They're not only, I guess, the dismissals they would have analysed, but what led up to that. Did he create pressure? That they felt that led to their dismissal. So how were their plans in terms of executed from what they had the day before or 2 days before when they're doing their preparation? How did they deliver on that? So I think they will have learned something from that experience. Like you say, if he's introduced some different variations that perhaps they hadn't seen before. Some of these guys would have played against him in IPL games. Others wouldn't have. So it would have been their first look at him. So, yeah, it's about obviously channeling what you learned last week, channeling what you already knew leading into that game, and then coming up with plans to, I guess, take him on this week as well. But, they'll if I was working with them, it'll be things like manipulating the angles of the crease, trying to make sure that you get the ball out of the area that he wants to deliver it in. How are you going to do that? And you have to do something different, because if you do the same things over and over again, well, you'll get the same results. So,
Yeah.
I would expect to see some slight manipulations of where they're standing on their crease, and I guess intent to how they're
Maybe
going
use the
to.
crease properly.
Yeah. I mean, it's for
Good.
me. For me, if it was bowling to a right-hander, then I would be encouraging the riders to bat on off stump and even get outside
Mm.
off stump. So yeah, it just opens up both sides then, and he just can't bowl at one side, and then you're restricted with how you can play. So little things like that, but it's up to each individual to come up with a game plan that they think not only allows them to stay in, but score runs, because that's the most important thing about batting, is scoring runs. And then obviously the ability to survive the bowler's best attempts to get you out is important as well, but scoring runs is the most important thing.
Yeah, so final couple of questions, Jimmy, before we wrap this session up. And that is, I would like to know the X factors for one each from India and New Zealand, you think, for the final? Like, who could be the X factor for both India and New Zealand coming in this big event, the main event?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're talking X factors, then there's two very experienced players there, Kane Williamson and Virat Kohli, I think, who will be the backbone of each respective team's batting. Rohit's going to try and get a flyer. Rachin Ravindra's been outstanding for New Zealand in terms of
Outstanding.
5 centuries in ICC events. So I think they'll be looking for contributions from both those guys as well. But maybe a little bit lower down. Can New Zealand get an X factor cameo from Daryl Mitchell? He's had a few little scores at this tournament, but can we see something special for him? And for India, there's no more X factor than Hardik Pandya. He'll be expected to bowl a few overs. I don't think they'll probably just pick Mohammad Shami, and they'll probably have Hardik as the second seamer, and then it'll be all spin, I'm thinking. But Hardik's X factor, because he gets wickets, and also he's got the ability to come in and smack the ball out of the ground in any situation. So yeah, don't come much more X factor than Hardik.
And Hardik Pandya, he's been a clutch player as well for India when it comes to the finals, semi-finals, all the knockout stages. And yeah, right then. So this is the final game, and this is an ODI World Cup. When the last time an ICC event took place, we saw a little bit of retirement as well. Indian stars Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Ravindra Jadeja retired from the T20 after the T20 World Cup. Steven Smith, he has retired from ODI cricket after Australia's elimination. There are rumors going about Temba Bavuma as well, but I'm not too sure about, and I won't take a statement because these are rumors. What do you think? Like, obviously, there are some vintage players playing from India as well, from New Zealand as well. Do you think? Would you be surprised if there are certain calls being made after the tournament? And if so, who could it? Who could they be? Who could the names be?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because obviously it's a very individual thing. I mean, I read the
Yeah,
news after the semi-final that Stephen Smith had decided to retire from. I was actually very surprised at that, because he gives
yeah.
me the impression that he really enjoys playing cricket, and he's still very fit. But hey, we just don't know what's going on in these guys' personal lives, backgrounds. How they want to approach the final, I guess, curtain of their careers. It's entirely up to them. They've earned the right. All these guys that we're talking about, whether it is Rohit or whether it is Virat or Jadeja, Kane Williamson on the New Zealand side, potentially, it's like these guys have earned the right to make the decision themselves, and they don't need people like us pestering them or talking about whether they should go or not. I think all those guys have earned the right to talk to respective selection committees, coaches, and work out what that plan looks like, and even have the ability to change that plan if something, comes overnight, even, that all of a sudden they don't enjoy going to practice, or they're not getting excited about playing the next game or the next tournament. Then that's the time to move on. But it's not for me. It's not for us to try and back them into a corner and say, "Give us a date when you're going to retire, please."
All right. So one final question before we wrap this session up with Jimmy Pamment, and that is, Jimmy, if you were the coach of the New Zealand cricket side, imagine yourself as a coach of the New Zealand cricket side, and today is the finals day. The boys are going to don the black caps, and they are going to take the field and play India in the final. What is the pep talk? If there was a pep talk that you have to give the boys before the game, what would that be?
Oh, I think you just have to remind them, I guess, the performances they've put in place, I guess, while they've been overseas on this short tour, and then obviously into the tournament. But I think you're always looking for inspiration. We've had some pioneers at this tournament previously, as you alluded to, 25 years ago when we won the tournament over in Kenya. So I think there'd be some reference to that special performance on that given day, but also about these guys, writing their own script and and obviously making the name for themselves as a group by beating such a strong Indian team in Dubai. So yeah, that's the way I'd be doing it. I'd be trying to, I guess, tap into some emotion and tap into their heartstrings, as well as obviously making sure that they were very well prepared tactically and that all the games were in order. I'd just be trying to tug at the heartstrings a little bit and just say how special this would be for them as a group, first and foremost, to win another ICC tournament for a number of them who were there in Hampshire in 2021. Would be wonderful, but also for all the new guys in the team, what a great way to, I guess, start off their careers by having, such a momentous victory. So I'd be trying to tap into a little bit of the heart side of it, as well as making sure that they were well prepared.
All right, so that's a nice way to make the boys energized and to make sure that they give the best out of that on the finals day. All right, Jimmy. Final question, like a bonus question, and that is prediction time. India versus New Zealand. I know your heart must be saying New Zealand, but mentally, who do you think has got the edge? What the percentage maybe? Who's New Zealand and India? How much percentage would you give them for winning the game?
Yeah, look, I think if you stack the two teams up in terms of historical performances, then India have probably got the edge. But I know that on any given day, this New Zealand team can beat anybody apart from Australia. But we know that we've had success against India in big games previously, so the boys will take confidence from that, and we can win this game. There's no doubt about it. And hopefully the burden of pressure is lying heavily with the Indians. So they make some mistakes, and we can capture a famous victory on Sunday night. But it should be a great game.
All right, so that's a statement made from Jimmy Pamment, and so everyone tuning in to the Cricket Reborn podcast here, thank you so much for listening. It's always wonderful to have these experts speak about cricket, and for more such content, make sure to subscribe and follow us on our social platforms. And also, Jimmy Pamment is doing some wonderful job as well for various teams. We wish him all the best for his endeavors that's coming in the future as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's been nice to join you.
Yeah, thank you so much.